Jarrod Bernstein, meantime, joins us here in New York right now, president of the Zioness Foundation, also a former counterterrorism and community outreach official in the Obama administration. Thank you, sir, for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start with UCLA. I mean, there's been a lot going on. You see the number at the bottom of the screen. We're up to 2,000 arrests now the last couple of weeks nationwide, these protests.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really unfortunate situation. We have in this country a high value on First Amendment rights, and I don't think anybody, not the president, not anybody in the pro-Israel community is saying we shouldn't have free and civil disobedience if that's what you feel. But when that crosses the line into making people feel unsafe,
right.
Telling students that if they are not a member of a certain community that they can't enter onto certain parts of campus, that's just not okay.
A couple of things on the president who you mentioned. So he spoke today, President Biden, earlier at the White House before he left for North Carolina. Do you think he struck the right tone? That's one. But number two, what about the fact that it took him a while to actually address these protests? What would you say about that?
Well, I think President Biden absolutely struck the right tone, which is in America, we have the right to protest. People feel very passionate about the war, very passionate about these issues, and they should be protesting if that's how you're so inclined. I think President Biden also made it clear that destruction, barricading, violence against the police, and when you're told to disperse, that's not okay. And in terms of how long President Biden took to react, I think, in the emergency business, which fortunately or unfortunately I spent a lot of time in over my career, everything you hear in the first 15 minutes of an emergency or some kind of a mass event like this is wrong. And I think the president wanted to take a beat and figure out exactly what was going on and let the dust settle a little bit before he commented. He's
10 days, a little bit too much of a beat?
Well, I think he saw, was letting the university administrators trying to get a handle on their campuses, and I think it's different in different places, right? What's going on in UCLA is not the same as what's going on at Columbia or Northwestern.
Right.
And so they can't all be painted with the same brush. And, he made it clear that disorder is not going to be tolerated.
So you worked in the Obama administration, right? So I assume politically you would describe yourself as progressive or center-left?
Center-left.
Yeah, center-left. What do you think the political impact of these protests has been? Because, we were doing so many interviews in the weeks leading up before all of this broke out. And it's just, I don't know if there's enough polling to back this up yet. It's just my impression. There were a lot of people, moderate people, even progressives, who were kind of changing their mind on Israel, or just people in general, just moderate, middle-of-the-road people who were maybe turning against the war effort there. And I wonder if this turns them back the other way. In other words, if they watch this and they're more sympathetic now to the Israeli cause. What do you think the impact is?
Well, certainly, if you feel like you're a member of a targeted community, which many American Jews do today, that will turn you in a specific direction. I think.
Did it change your mind at all about?
I mean, I've been where I have been, which is I want to see the return of the hostages. I want to see a ceasefire, and I want to see a peace and stability for Israel and a dignified Palestinian state. Unfortunately, in Hamas, then you're not really dealing with somebody who's interested in a state.
Right.
Their self-declared, motivations are the elimination of their neighboring state. And so who really suffers in this situation are the Palestinian people, because their government, and I'd say government very loosely, is not interested in improving their lives or giving them any kind of safety and stability. They're only interested in the destruction of a neighboring state.
Yeah, I guess I asked the question because I'm wondering if the protesters are helping their own cause. In other words, we see what they want. They want a ceasefire. They're worried about what's happening in Gaza, critical of the way Netanyahu's been executing the war. But as I said, a lot of people were coming in here saying that weeks ago, and I just haven't heard as much of it since these protests broke out.
Well, certainly when you're a Jewish student on a campus and you feel like you can't move or you're surrounded by protesters, people tend to harden their hearts. I think, the Jewish tradition teaches you got to understand the other. You have to be strange. In Passover, we're taught once we were strangers in a strange land. And so there's a real emphasis on understanding the other. And I think that hasn't gone anywhere. But certainly if you feel unsafe on your college campus, you feel unsafe walking around New York City or any other place, openly displaying your Jewishness, that certainly is a first and foremost kind of a concern. And anything else is second to that.
Yeah, we had a young man from Columbia in here sitting where you are an hour ago. And that's how he said he felt. He said he hadn't heard specifically something anti-Semitic to him, but his friends have, and he felt, unsafe walking from his apartment to campus.
Well, when you have a member of the United States Congress saying that there is a pro-genocide and an anti-genocide side of this protest, and that's it, we were always taught when you went into the Oval Office to see President Obama, and you would say, Mr. President, this is a really tough one. And he would say, Well, I sure as hell hope this is a tough one, because if it's not, you're wasting my time.
Yeah, if it gets to him, in other words.
This is a very complicated issue, and if not just the current conflict, but what is the long-term future for the Israeli people and the Palestinian people? If it was easy, it would have been solved 50 years ago. And unfortunately, we're dealing with decades of mistrust on both sides, and all we can do is try and not let that spill over onto American soil, and where we see it, encourage those university administrators to take the responsible actions to keep everybody safe, the protesters and anybody who may not agree with the protesters.
All right, we're going to run here, but what's your favorite approach, if you had to say, from an administration? Which schools are getting it right?
I think Fordham University, and not just because it's one of my 2 alma maters.
Mine too, yeah.
Okay, you know, they told people that there was a protest to be had, and people were free to lawfully protest, but when they impeded other students' ability to go about their lives, they were going to be arrested.
And they called the cops.
They called the cops. There wasn't a lot of violence, and they moved on. So I give a lot of credit to the Fordham administration.
All right, Jarrod. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.